From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Court sentences BRT driver to death over murder of 22-year-old female passenger Bamishe Anyowola. ICPC retracts allegations of discrepancies in student loan disbursement as Education Minister opens probe into alleged violations. World leaders condemn Israel over 60-day blockade of Gaza, which Amnesty International describes as war crime.
In business, Central Bank of Nigeria reports group loss of 680.63 billion naira for December 2024 as bank earns 165.7 billion naira.
And in sport, Akwa Ibom governor urges stakeholders to harness sports to foster national unity and youth development.
Tonight begins now. Thank you for joining us. We begin tonight in Lagos, where the State High Court sitting in Tafawa Balewa Square on Friday sentenced Andrew Nice Omini Korom, a driver of Lagos Bus Rapid Transport BRT, to death by hanging for killing Bamishe Anyowola, a 22-year-old fashion designer. The trial judge gave the verdict on Friday. The court had, on March 6, reserved judgment in the case against the driver who was accused of raping and murdering 22-year-old fashion designer in 2022. The judge fixed Friday, May 2, 2025 for the verdict after both the prosecution and the defense adopted their final written addresses. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission has retracted its earlier claim of discrepancies in the disbursement of student loans under the Nigeria Education Loan Fund. ICPC's Director of Public Enlightenment and Education, Demola Bakari, issued the retraction in a revised statement on Thursday, just hours after the Commission's earlier update suggested that discrepancies were already established in the student loan disbursements. The Commission earlier said preliminary findings revealed major gaps in the financial records of the student loan scheme. It added that while the federal government reportedly released $100 billion, only 28.8 billion naira was disbursed to students, leaving 71.2 billion naira unaccounted for. However, the Federal Ministry of Education has launched an investigation into alleged illegal deductions from institutional fees paid by the Nigerian Education Loan Fund on behalf of beneficiaries of the student loan scheme. To discuss this development, we have joining us Professor Yomi Fawemi, a policy analyst, Professor David Awurawo, lecturer at the University of Lagos, as well as Eniola Orowole, Public Relations Officer of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NAS. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I will start with you, Professor Fawemi. ICPC issued a statement with the clear caption, ICPC launches comprehensive investigation into discrepancies in student loan disbursement. There was no ambiguity in the caption, but in 24 hours, it made a U-turn. I have read many versions of this retraction in the papers, and it still doesn't make sense. I mean, is it possible for any institution to put out a statement on a very sensitive matter without thoroughly vetting it, only to retract same over a missing not word, barely 24 hours after the statement kicked off a storm?
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. A great question from you about that. It talks again about institutional capacity. But let us remember that the first institution that made the accusation was NELFON itself. On the 10th of April, Nelfond alleged that some universities were doing things that were not correct. Nelfond said it actually threatened to go to court because he said some schools were doing the wrong thing. So it started with Nelfond making an accusation in around 10th or 11th of April, thereabouts. Then, interestingly, the next agency that took on the issue was the National Orientation Agency. At about the 13th of April, the National Orientation Agency, now, you remember I said Nelfond accused the schools. The National Orientation Agency came and accused the schools and the banks. Actually used the word conspire. The National Orientation Agency said all the schools and the banks conspired to do what is not right. Those two organizations have accused, and there was now silence until the 29th of April or thereabout, when the Guardian newspaper now said there were 51 universities involved in this process. It was that news report. And the biggest challenge for me in the whole story was that after the Guardian now did that release of the 29th, that 51 universities were there, Nelfond dissociated itself from the report from Guardian. So it was Nelfond that said something was wrong. The National Orientation Agency confirmed it. Then the Guardian newspaper wrote about it and mentioned 51. And Nelfond, the organization that initially raised the accusation, dissociated itself from the report. And that was, for me, the bigger conclusion. 2 days or thereabouts, the ICPC now said something was going wrong that is not right. And then, like you said, a couple of hours after, said, no, we are no more accusing the Nelfond, but we are going after the schools and the beneficiaries. For me, my own analysis of what has happened, I believe Nelfond has done creditably well if you compare to other public institutions. The biggest confusion in this whole story was the way Nelfond denied and dissociated itself from the report that the Guardian did that corroborated what it said earlier. And that's where we are today. It's a Guardian report that actually made them respond, that actually made ICPC report. If they have reinforced, as we expect people to partner with the media, then we might have gotten some progress. But now, what has now happened? And now eventually, May 4th or thereabout, the minister now said he wants to meet with the school. So they have thrown the can from the federal government agencies directly and moved it to the school.
All right. I mean, you're laying the blame to some degree at Netfund, even though you say they've done well. But this is not about Netfund at this moment. We're talking about an independent institution of government issuing a statement, retracting same over a particular word. And then you look at what the headline of that presser stated and the retraction that came 24 hours later. Let me shift to Professor Awurawo and just ask you your perception of all of this. Does it make sense? Is the retraction plausible? Is it that they are making investigation or some sort of pressure was exerted to have that retraction done?
There is a lot of confusion in the way the whole thing has been handled. Just like Prof said, it was Netfund that initially raised an alarm, so to speak, about suspicions of some inconsistencies in the way the loans have been handled by different institutions. And then ICPC came into the matter, and then just in the last 24 hours or so, we have now had even more confusion by ICPC making the retraction. ICPC said the word "not," was supposed to be in this statement. The word "not" is not there, But when one looks at the whole report itself, the not and no not they are talking about does not explain why they have made that retraction. But the good thing is that, the retraction by ICPC and the statements by Netfund has not wiped out investigations into the whole issue. That is the aspect of it that is good. Both the Ministry of Education, the House Committee on Education, they are all looking into it. Again, even the figures they have put out are a bit confusing. At some point, the one bread is 100 billion, out of really 28 billion has been disbursed. At another break, they say 203 billion, out of which 44 billion has been disbursed. So the issue of how much exactly has been disbursed, we need to know. Because again, the figures there are not even exact from the bodies that are alleging that mismanagement has taken place in the way the fund has been handled. So all of that needs to be clarified. For justice to be done, you need, careful investigation and diligent prosecution.
Well,
investigation that is having issues.
Is saying that they are going to. I'm sorry to interject, but I just wanted to corroborate what you're saying by adding that ICPC has now come out to say that investigation is still ongoing and no indictment has been made, and they gave their reasons for this. Let's bring it in, Eniola, quickly, because, I mean, students are at the heart of what we're talking about today. Eniola, NAS came up, I think, earlier. Okay, I understand we don't have Eniola yet, so I'll come back to you, Professor Awura, Professor Fawemi, rather. Walk us quickly, because it seems that there is some confusion as to how this loan disbursement is supposed to work. So as quickly as you can, before we continue talking about the issues arising, how is this loan supposed to work? Who gets what? Does it go to the school first? Does some of it go to the student? How?
Okay, so the loan is in two parts. Thanks again for the question. There is the loan that deals with institutional fees. So that is technically the loan for the school fees. Remember, it's a loan. So I'm a student of University of Lagos. My school fees is 20 Naira. I get a loan for that. So there is that component. Then there is a second part of the loan that is called for upkeep. The upkeep is a monthly disbursement sent directly to the students. So there are two tracks of the loan, the one that goes to the school to take care of institutional fees and the one that goes directly to the student. Both of them are loans and they're supposed to be repaid. Now, all the complaints that have been made has been about the institutional loan, the loan that goes through the school. And that is why I feel the real issue is with the design of the program. A student applies for a loan. It says, I need 20,000 Naira to pay my fee. ICPC does not rely on the 20,000, NELFON does not rely on the 20,000 the student said, I need to pay my fees. NELFON relies on what the school says is the school fees of the students. And part of the challenge that has happened in this case is that there have now been evidences that some schools have inflated the fees. So my school fees is 20,000. My university tells NELFON my school fees is 25,000. We now have evidence that some schools did that, and actually NELFON confirmed that has happened. And again, please note, this is not a recent thing. These students have been complaining about this thing as far back as last year. So it's not a recent thing. Now, you had that part of the challenge. The other part of the challenge is with the fact that, so now my school's fees is 20,000. NELFON releases the money. The school does not tell me. Part of the allegation that NELFON raised around the 10th of April was that some schools will collect the loan and not inform the student and go after the student to pay another loan. So I now, because NELFON did not pay as paid and the school did not tell me, or the school is denying, I now go and borrow money from somewhere else and I pay the fee so that I can attend classes. And then I now see evidence that NELFON has paid. I now tell my school, give me back the money I paid since NELFON has given me the loan. And the school refused to give me back the loan. That is,
so I mean, if that allegation, Prof, if that allegation turns out to be true, that means something is clearly illegally going on in our institutions. Let's bring in Eniola now. I understand she's been able to, oh, I beg your pardon, Eniola, sir. I understand you've been able to join us. Talk to us. I don't know if you followed the conversation so far. The ICPC, on the one hand, said they are still investigating. And NELFON says nothing has, no discrepancy has been noted as of now. But there was a presser from the National Association. You planned to go on a protest on April 29 on this matter, but I don't think that happened. Talk to us about what students are telling you, if there are evidence that the allegations that monies are being taken away from students is true.
Well, good evening, Nigeria. I'm happy to be here tonight, but I want to quickly say one or two things now. the students of Nigerian institutions are completely sad. They are not happy with the government. They are disappointed and they are irritated. Well, before I go forward with my analysis, I would like to advise the federal government to ease us of all this stress and scrap net fund. It's a waste of resources, waste of time, and waste of energy. They dash the hope of millions of students in Nigeria. It was the DG of National Retention Agency, Larry Issa Onilu, that brought up this matter. But I'm so disappointed for the ICPC of high esteem to come out and, eat their vomit barely 24 hours to the declaration of the investigation into this net fund scenario. Let me read out the statement of ICPC to you in case you don't know.
All right, we already have that. Eniola, we already have that. What I want from you tonight, if possible, is to confirm that these allegations, that students actually have come to the NAS and told them that they pay to the school and the school refuses to refund them, or they are not getting what is due to them. What are they telling you?
Well, I just, a few hours ago, I spoke with my executives and across Nigeria. The students are telling us that the loans are not getting to them. Few of them are getting it. They just disbursed 53 billion naira so far. It's very unfortunate. People are not getting this loan. The students are frustrated. Why not lower the institution, the tuition fee of the higher institution instead of robbing Peter to pay Paul?
Okay, if you could just talk to us about you gave a press statement not too long ago, and you said you were going to a protest. What happened? Did that protest hold? Did you take your matter to the federal government somehow?
Well, in the inception of this interview, they have already told me not to talk about the faction in NAS, but it's extremely inevitable. We are not aware of any protest that's supposed to hold on because part of NAS has already been pocketed and turned to the toothless bulldog from some government agencies. I don't want to mention name, but as I'm talking to you now, Comrade Issa Atiku Abubakar is the authentic NAS president.
All right,
and
we'll leave it there for now.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We'll leave it there for now. Let's go to Professor Awarawo and just ask this. I mean, on the storm that was released by the statement from the ICPC, some would say it's a good thing because we hear now that the Federal Ministry of Education is saying that they are going to convene a meeting on May 6th with vice chancellors of affected universities and the managing director of NELFund. They are also talking about creating initiatives. Let me see if I can find that. Creating initiatives to check how monies are being spent at the universities. And this triggers a thought. Is it that Professor Fawemi said earlier that the design of the program might have an issue? Checks and balances. Is that something you are seeing as well?
Yes. Let me just make this point very clearly, that it will be a huge disservice to Nigerian students if the NELFund program scheme is scrapped, as the student union, a young man there is saying. To do that will be tantamount to throwing away the baby with the bathwater. What needs to happen is to look at the problems and address them. I also want to quickly state that NELFund itself has thoughts of its own. This last session, when the session started, the session was midway. This first semester was midway before the portal for the students to be able to register for the fund was open. That was what created the room for schools to tell students to go and look for money to pay first before their monies will be paid to the various universities. And of course, it seems that when the money now came, some of the universities now didn't quickly, reimburse the students involved. Then the other side to it is that NEFON does not accept OPay, PAMPay, and all of this. And many of the students, their accounts to which the 3,000 or more money they pay as stipend to every month, they submitted is OPay, PAMPay, and all of this. NEFON does not accept that. They only accept established banks. So these are the things they need to tidy up so that the scheme can function smoothly. And of course, just as you have said, in Nigeria, we can abuse just anything. It seems also that the vice chancellors are charging illegal fees on top of this money. All of this mess needs to be cleared off so that the scheme can function properly and serve its purpose.
Professor Fawemi, do you agree with Professor Aworawo that we should not talk about scrapping this scheme, throwing the baby with the bathwater as well?
Yeah, I agree with him. But it's interesting. When I was an undergraduate, in the 80s. There was a student loan fund. I mean, so it's not as if it's not an innovation. I mean, there's a way they talk about it as if it's a new thing. I mean, as an undergraduate, I was aware of the Students' Federal Scholarship Board. I think that's what it used to be called. So we have always had some form of, I think the first time we said to have some support for students came under the regime of General Gowon. That's in the 70s. So we have always had this in various shapes and forms. And like Professor Aworawo said, what we need to do is to improve it. And one of the things the minister has said is that a non-governmental organization will get involved in some elements of monitoring and reporting, which is what we should have designed from the beginning to ensure that there's some third-party verification. It's also interesting to me that the minister said he wants to meet with the vice chancellors and the CEO of NELFund. Please note, the CEO of NELFund, the CEO of National Orientation Agency, and also ICPC have accused the universities of doing something that is wrong. If somebody is accused of doing something wrong, why are you holding a meeting with him? Why is the minister holding a meeting when 3 government agencies have said something is not right in the universities? I think what we should rather do is to allow ICPC or EFCC to do their investigation. Why are you holding the dialogue between the people that accuse the schools and the man that made the accusation? That looks like some extrajudicial process to find a soft landing. At the end of the day, I'm not sure anything is going to come out of this. Because I do not understand why 3 government agencies will accuse university of doing something wrong, and the minister, rather than say investigation, please conclude the investigation, let's meet and let's talk about it. It looks like the way we resolve political issues in Nigeria is a family issue. All right. I'm not sure anything is going to come.
I'm sorry to interject, but we have very limited time for this conversation. I want to come to Eniola quickly and just say, you've heard what the professors are saying, that scrapping the program, the scheme is not in the best interest of students. So I want to ask you quickly, what would make, I mean, allegations are on the fore, reactions are coming. What other actions do you, would you see that would make this scheme, you know, more acceptable for the student union? Eniola, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. Can you come again, please?
Yeah, I'm asking you, the professors, you have 30 seconds, please. The professors are saying that we shouldn't throw away the baby with the bathwater. You suggested that the NELFund should be scrapped. They are saying no. And I'm asking you, what would make it acceptable for, I mean, what would make it better if these issues are addressed?
Well, I appreciate the Minister of Education with what he's coming up with, and well, that is the absolute solution. Is scrapping, but I also seen your guests tonight, the professor and the other gentleman. Well, I believe we have to look into, and a student body, they have to involve the student bodies, the NAS, in this NELFund of a thing. The NELFund have to call the students' union body to be involved.
More involvement.
So that
more involvement. Eniola, I'm sorry to interject. I'm trying to make the best of the time. Thank you very much for your submission. To wrap up quickly, Professor Aworawo, will this confusion and this mistake that has been corrected by ICPC, do you think it will impact the outcome of their investigation when they do come out with a full report eventually?
In
30 seconds, sir.
of the issue. If they are honest, they are sincere, and they are, forthright, what has happened now will not affect it. But if they allow interventions on right, left, and center to affect, careful investigation and diligence in handling the matter, of course, it will affect the outcome. But I agree with Professor Fawemi that they should have allowed these bodies to do their investigation and then submit a report, so that those who are culpable can be brought to justice. That will have been the best way to ensure that, there is deterrence for any other person who might want to do that in future. But if they hold a meeting and do it like a family affair, there will be no deterrence. And I'm afraid these problems might not just be resolved.
Thank you so much for giving us your time tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me very much.
Coming up, Emir Sanusi and Bayero appoint two separate Galadima Kanu on the same day. We'll tell you about this when we come back. Just stay with us. You're watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Court sentences BRT driver to death over murder of 22-year-old female passenger Bamishe Ayomola. ICPC retracts allegations of discrepancies in student loan disbursement as Education Minister opens probe into alleged violations. World leaders condemn Israel over 60-day blockade of Gaza, which Amnesty International describes as war crime. The Federal High Court in Abuja has once again adjourned the trial of the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. After appearing before the court on Friday, the trial was adjourned to the 6th of May 2025. The court, presided over by Justice James Omotoshon, had earlier authorized the use of masked witnesses. At the last sitting, a masked witness identified as AAA testified about Kanu's arrest at a hotel in Lagos, evidence the defense was expected to contest on Friday. Kanu's lead counsel, Kano Agabi, presented a 22-member legal team, although the judge permitted only 13 to participate. 4 senior advocates of Nigeria have now joined the defense. Kanu faces terrorism and treason charges dating back to 2015. However, the case has been repeatedly delayed, including due to his controversial rearrest in Kenya in 2021. Still on legal matters, the National Judicial Council has suspended Justice Iyanekwo, the judge assigned to hear the case involving Aisha Achimugo, who is accused of money laundering by the EFCC. According to the NJC, Justice Ekwo delivered a ruling in a criminal case without hearing from the parties involved, an act deemed a serious breach of judicial conduct. The council added that the judge failed to properly identify the parties referenced in his ruling. As a result, Justice Ekwo has been handed a 1-year suspension, placed on a 5-year watch list, and barred from career progression for the same duration. Let's head on now to Kanu. You understand the 15th Emir of Kanu, Aminu Ado Bayero, and the 16th Emir, Muhammadu Sanusi II, have each appointed separate individuals to the title of Galadima Kanu. Aminu Ado Bayero named his brother, Alhaji Sanusi Lamido Ado Bayero, as Galadima Kanu during a ceremony at the Nasarawa Mini Palace. Hours later, at the main palace, Emir Muhammadu Sanusi II appointed Alhaji Munia Sanusi Bayero, the district head of Bichi, to the same title. During his speech, Sanusi II also announced the appointment of 4 senior traditional councillors, urging all appointees to lead with humility and serve the people with loyalty and compassion. We cross live now to Kanu, where my colleague Emmanuel Bagudu is standing by to provide a situation report. Thank you, Bagudu, for staying up to give us this update. Tell us what the atmosphere is like in Kano today. We had these two emir turbaning their own Galadima. Okay. Unfortunately, we've lost connection with Emmanuel. We will try and reconnect in the course of the bulletin. But for now, let's tell you that the shift in consumer patterns in Nigeria has drastically slowed down the buying pace of fast-moving consumer goods, resulting in major losses of manufacturers. Nigerians are now forced to make a decision between their preferred brands and affordability. The sixth edition of the Industry Summit held in Lagos on Friday themed Understanding Consumer Preference in a Troubled FMCG Space. It took a deep dive into this issue as it concerns both consumer and businesses alike. News Center's business correspondent, Chamun Dabeng, reports.
Indicators suggest growth. However, many Nigerians continue to feel the pinch of inflation, high exchange rates and shifting consumer trends. According to the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, FMCGs in 2024 lost a staggering 1.4 trillion naira, raising the question, how are businesses surviving? And what does this mean for the future of Nigerians?
There has been a reduction in consumer disposable income. As a result of that weakened consumer purchasing power, consumers have taken certain decisions in terms of what they buy and how they buy.
Some organizations now, those who are producing milk, those who are producing detergents, that half of what is in those their sachets are air. So what is the reason for that? The reason for that is that there is production cost has gone up astronomically. People are not able, raw materials, people are not able to import raw materials for the simple fact that the naira has depreciated to the lowest low.
Nigeria's manufacturing sector is at a crossroads driven by shifting consumer spending patterns. Rising inflation, currency fluctuations and household income constraints are shaping buyer behavior, forcing manufacturers to adapt to evolving market realities.
Manufacturers have had to make judgment calls, reviewing their supply chain, reviewing the products and services that they're offering to consumers, making judgment calls in line with current realities.
Nigerian companies do a lot of imports of their input materials. Now the thinking is, how do we develop our local industries to the point where they are able to compete with the standards of what we have to import to produce locally. So that's one aspect I think the government can come in and play to support our local manufacturing industry.
Nigeria's economy is evolving and so are its people. As businesses try to adapt, consumers must also navigate these new challenges while seeking to get the best deals, if possible, at the least cost where possible. Reporting for News Central Lagos, I am Chamun Dabeng.
Many thanks, Chairman. Let's now bring in my colleague live from Kano to give us an update on the turbaning of two Galadimas. Emmanuel, if you can hear me, go ahead and talk to us about what the situation is currently in Kano after these two emirs turbaned two Galadimas in one day.
Yes, it's a very significant day, and of course, a very, 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 day that one can actually, attribute or rather liken to a day for a show of supremacy. I mean, the two emirs actually, went ahead and then against the will of the people to actually turban two, Galadimas, making it two emirs in the Emirates, and of course two Galadimas, which actually is an infringement to the sanctity of the Emirate system. Of course, it's very, very important for us to also state which among the two emirs is right, because of course you will not know until the Supreme Court make that pronouncement. But when you look at the area of the reinstated emir, that's the 16th emir of Kano, Muhammad II, he had the backings of the governor, During his own event, you will see the presence of the governor and the deputy and the secretary to the state government attending the event of Mohammed Sanusi II, giving him that support. But we don't see that happening in the other side, which means, of course, there is more to it, and then there is a lot to talk about in this kind of crisis. Yeah.
I wish we had more time, Emmanuel. I do have more questions for you, but maybe subsequently we'll do that. Thank you for bringing us this update. Outside of Nigeria, a Southern African court has found a woman guilty of trafficking her 6-year-old daughter, who has been missing for more than a year, in a case that has outraged the nation. The 2-month trial had statements from various witnesses that Racquel Smith had revealed to them that she had told her daughter, Joshlin, in February 2024, including claims she was paid 20,000 rand, equivalent to $1,000.85. Judge Nathan Erasmus said the evidence of 35 state witnesses led him to find that Smith, who is 35, and her 2 co-accused, a boyfriend and a mutual friend, were guilty on the charges of human trafficking and kidnapping. To one of our lead stories tonight, world leaders from Ireland, Austria, among others, have condemned Israel's over 60-day blockade of Gaza, which Amnesty International has termed a war crime. Humanitarian coordinator Amjad Shawa in Gaza warned that more children are likely to die from malnutrition as the whole strip is starving due to Israel's siege, which has shut out food, medicine and water from reaching Gaza. Medical sources say at least 35 people have been killed in Israeli strikes on Gaza Friday alone, with one strike on Burej killing 9 members of the same family. We'll bring you business news after the break. Stay with us. Joanna is here with the business update. The CBN posted a group loss for December 2024. What is that about?
Right, it's a significant shift, of course, in CBN's financial trajectory, and this may reshape monetary and fiscal policy discussions going forward. I'll bring you the details on this shortly. The Central Bank of Nigeria reported a profit of 38.8 billion naira after tax in the full year of 2024 from its 1.15 trillion naira loss recorded in 2023 financial year. This was stated in its recent full-year financial statement released on Friday. According to the report, the strong performance was driven largely by strong growth in interest income and other operating income, particularly net unrealized foreign exchange revaluation gains of 11.28 trillion naira, up 225% year-on-year. The figures were disclosed in the CBN's audited financial statement prepared in line with the IFRS standards and Nigerian financial regulation. In accordance with the Fiscal Responsibility Act, 20% of the bank's profits will be retained, with the remainder remitted to the federal government. The CBN board held 4 meetings in 2024. Nigeria is on track to fully repay its $3.32 billion rapid financing instrument loan from the International Monetary Fund by 2029. This is according to the fund's updated schedule. The emergency loan disbursed in 2020 to cushion the COVID-19 impact has already seen a 67.6% reduction in outstanding debt. Nigeria owes about $590.78 million more, with repayments staggered till 2029. Reforms under President Tinubu, including subsidy removal and FX unification, have supported macroeconomic recovery. The IMF praised Nigeria's fiscal progress but urged sustained efforts to mitigate risk from oil volatility and security challenges. And trading activities in the Nigerian equities market closed positive at the end of the first trading day in May. The NGX All-Share Index increased to 106,042.57, and of course we're up 27 basis points today. Market cap is at 66.65 trillion naira, and for the week we're seeing a gain of 27 basis points. Similarly, the market capitalization also increased, as I have pointed out. Mixed sectoral performances. We are seeing pretty much negative, and funny enough, this was enough to boost the markets today. Consumer goods up 2.03%, industrial goods up 0.08%. All the others are in the red, but we still managed to close positive for the week. That is business tonight. I am Joanna Mustafa. Tonight continues with Felicity.
Favor joins us now for the latest in sports tonight. Favor, what's happening from Akwa Ibom State? I hear the governor is doing something.
Yes, of course, the Unity Touch for the 22nd National Sports Festival did arrive Uyo today. And, roused welcome by the governor of the state ahead of the games that will go down in Ogun State. Many more after this timeout. Governor Umoino of Akwa Ibom has called on stakeholders to harness the power of sport to foster national unity and youth development. He made the call during the state reception of the Unity Touch for the 2024 National Sports Festival at the Government House in Uyo amid fanfare. Represented by the Secretary to the State Government, Prince Enobongua, the governor emphasized that sports can break barriers of ethnicity, religion, and tribalism. The touch, symbolizing unity and victory, was passed from the Sports Commissioner Paul Bassi to the National Sports Commission's Mbora Nkana before reaching the governor. The governor urged state athletes to compete with integrity, assuring continued support for sport. The festival is set for May 16 to 30th in Ogun State, Nigeria. And now to grassroots football. Lagos State University, LASU claimed the dramatic 1-0 victory over Yaba College of Technology, Yaba Tech, to become the first ever champions of the Uniteco Cup. After a goalless 90 minutes, the tightly contested final was forced into extra time. LASU midfielder Elijah Ayeni scored what proved to be the match-winning goal, tapping home the ball after he had rebounded off the crossbar. Yaba Tech had a golden chance to equalize in the final seconds when they were awarded a penalty. However, LASU goalkeeper Isiaka Seyon pulled off a remarkable save to deny them. The victory not only secured the title for LASU, but also earned them historic bragging rights as the first ever winners of the competition.
We want to promote Nigerian and African football. We have the talent, we have the numbers, we have everything to make football a global product. And so for us, being involved in grassroots football, and for us, higher education.
And now to athletics. Sprint star Favor Ofidi will make a long-awaited debut today at the prestigious Grand Slam track athletics competition in Miami, Florida. Now, the Nigerian will compete in both the women's 100-meter and 200-meter events at the Unseen Sports Complex, joining a high-profile field in the second leg of the professional series launched by Olympic legend Michael Johnson. Ofidi, Nigeria's 200-meter national record holder, becomes the first full-blooded Nigerian to race in the league after missing the opening leg in Jamaica. Her 100-meter race is scheduled for 11:52 p.m. Nigerian time on Friday, May 2nd, with the 200-meter at midnight on Sunday. Ofili enters the event in strong form after clocking 22.34 seconds to finish second behind Julian Alfred at the Tom Jones Invitational last month. Winners in each event earn $100,000. And now to basketball. Greg Popovich has stepped down from his position as head coach of the San Antonio Spurs after 29 seasons with the team. The Spurs announced that the 76-year-old will transition into the role of president of the basketball operations at the organization. Popovich oversaw 1,422 regular season victories, the most by a head coach in NBA history, and led the Spurs to 5 NBA championships, most recently in 2014. He has not been on the sidelines since suffering a mild stroke in November before a home win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. In his absence, the Spurs failed to reach the 2025 NBA playoffs. They have not played in the postseason since 2019 after finishing the regular season with a record of 34 wins and 48 losses. And that wraps it up on Sports Update. And Favor Itua tonight continues with Felicity.
And that was here for entertainment news. And there were, what is Portable up to again?
You know, it seems that every other day when everywhere is calm, Portable just decides, let's shake things up a bit. Because I don't understand. But I'll definitely bring you the details shortly. Nigerian street hop artist Portable has avoided jail time by paying a 30,000 naira fine after being convicted in a long-standing 2022 assault case. The Ifo Magistrate Court in Ogun State found him guilty on conspiracy to assault and unlawful assault, though a related theft charge was dismissed, according to police reports. The altercation occurred in Okeosa, Ilogbo area and involved Portable and several accomplices still at large. Instead of serving a 3-month sentence, Portable paid the fine immediately. Now, the incident adds to his history of legal troubles and further fuels his controversial reputation in the entertainment space. He has a reputation. Felicity, what do you have to say about Portable being in the news back and forth?
Time.
Well,
I mean, 30,000 is change.
Yes.
You don't. I mean, you would rather sleep in your bed. So
definitely. So at least it was a smart one for him. He just paid immediately and please let me go. Let me go. Well, let's hope he stays out of jail.
That is key.
Let's hope he stays out of jail. Now let's talk about some exciting news. As the same way Afrobeat is making it big, now the Nollywood industry is also getting a significant mark, as Nigerian filmmaker Joel Kachi Benson has earned 2 Emmy nominations for Madu, a documentary he co-directed with Oscar nominee Matt Ogans, marking a major milestone for Nigerian documentary cinema. Nominated for Outstanding Arts and Culture Documentary and Outstanding Direction Documentary, Madu follows the inspiring journey of Anthony Madu, a young Lagos ballet dancer whose viral video led him to a prestigious ballet school in the UK. Premiering on Disney+, the film has received critical acclaim for its emotional depth and visual beauty. Benson, known for his award-winning Daughters of Chibok, sees the recognition as a win for African storytelling and a signal of its growing global impact. Well, Felicity, now movies getting big recognitions, and what do you think? What do you think?
Kudos to them. It's not easy to get something to that level.
To that level.
I mean, they make us, despite everything we're going through as a nation, you know, our entertainment, music, comedy, they keep us afloat, they keep us going. And this is a big one.
Kudos, kudos. Well, congratulations again. All right, well, that's all we have on entertainment for tonight.
And that's it for tonight. But before we go, a quick reminder of our top stories. Court sentences BRT driver to death over murder of 22-year-old female passenger Bamise Ayowola. ICPC retracts allegation of discrepancies in student loan disbursement as Education Minister opens probe into alleged violations. World leaders have condemned Israel over 60-day blockade in Gaza, which Amnesty International has described as a war crime. Send us your eyewitness reports to the number showing now on your screen. Would like you to follow us on our social media platforms as well to get all the latest stories, as well as share your thoughts. That is at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you for your kind company. Have a good night.